So yeah, I'm super happy with the way this thing sounds. It is incredible. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another video in the Tone Sample series. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Celestion SpeakerMix Pro and their DSRs, or Dynamic Speaker Responses. These are what they call next-gen impulse responses because they have a dynamic feel and realism to them that standard linear impulse responses, which is what you're probably familiar with, do not have. So let's go ahead and jump into some audio and see what these things sound like. Then we'll take a look at the plugin and the DAW and break things down. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump into the DAW and take a look at Celestion SpeakerMix Pro. All right, so first thing I want to point out here is how I put together the entire guitar tone that you just heard in the audio sample, because I know you're probably gonna have questions besides just what impulse response technology I was using. So I will run through the signal chain here real quick. As you saw in the video, I'm using my Solar A1.7D, which it has the stock Solar Duncan pickups in it, going from that into my Focusrite Scarlett audio interface, from there into my Behringer DI Pro, and then from the DI into the Mac, and then we end up in the DAW, and we have a channel EQ. And this is going to be consistent across both the left and the right channels. This was just obviously boosting some high mids and high end, notching out a few frequencies, cutting, having a high and a low pass, essentially just trying to clean up that DI signal a little bit. So that's the EQ, very first thing. And then we go into the Slate Digital virtual mix rack, where I'm using a virtual channel and their New York preamp, and you can see the settings I'm using here. And then we go into a simple noise gate, which is the Logic noise gate. Then we're using, as I already had up, the STL AmpHub with the 5153, and you can see I'm on the red channel with these settings here. And then the impulse response section, the cabinet section, is completely turned off. You can see if it's toggled off, it has this more dim color to it. It's completely off. And I am using the STL tones, well, the overdrive here, the M808 max drive with the settings you can see there. And then we go into the SpeakerMix Pro, which you can see on the screen, and we'll go into in just a second. And then I have one final EQ to just boost a tiny bit of a little bit more highs between 2 and 5K. As I was kind of mixing this audio, I just found it just needed a little bit more boost, and I just felt like I just throw another EQ in there real quick just to boost it up. And then tiny bit of compression. I'm using the Smash and Grab compressor from GGD. And that's literally doing nothing 99% of the time, except for when you hit some of those low chug, like palm mutes, and that bass starts to come out in that. It just pulls that back just a touch so it doesn't get woofy. All right, and so that was the entire signal chain that made up the tone you just heard in the audio sample. Now, let's get into Celestion SpeakerMix Pro and take a look at what this thing is and what it does. So the very first thing is I want to point out this loads multiple different types of IRs. Obviously, it loads standard impulse responses, standard linear impulse responses. If you have any impulse response that you already have in those wave formats, feel free to load it up in here and use them. Now, where this thing gets fancy and where they have their whole next gen marketing behind it is the DSRs, or the dynamic speaker responses. This is exactly what they say, right? It's supposed to have that dynamicism, and as they say on their website, that feel. Or the way they describe it on their website is the next generation in impulse response technology that also captures the sound and feel of the speaker's dynamic, nonlinear response for even more detail and realism. So a bunch of marketing speak to just say it's more dynamic, it's nonlinear, and you're supposed to feel it more, like you're actually sitting in front of a cabinet and you can feel that, right? So that's what these DSRs are supposed to be. And so how does all this SpeakerMix Pro plugin work? Well, you can see you just load it up in the DAW here, and this is what you get. You get this cabinet with the mics, the mic placement here in the middle, and then the speaker, and then below it you have all the different settings. So you have the Z curve, which, as they say on the website, it's supposed to model the dynamic electrical coupling between amp and speaker. So we'll play with that just a little bit and you can hear it. Honestly, the best way I could describe it in all of my testing so far is it almost just sounds like it creates more of a scooped tone. You get a lot more bass, you get a lot more high end, a lot less mids. It's the easiest way I can describe it. But you'll hear it when we get there. You can add a tiny bit of delay here from 15 to 40 milliseconds. And I guess that's just to offset anything that may be happening with any delays you have. I don't know. I didn't need to use it, so it's there if you need it. You can adjust your input volume, and then you have 6 different channels that you can load up IRs in. So you can see all of them here, and I've got some stuff already preloaded. I've got a kind of an entire setup that I'm using with some additional things we'll check out here in just a second. And then you have this room, which is actually pretty cool. So you have this room, and you have this room bus thing here. You can turn this up or turn it down as low as you want, and that adds some of these really cool room sounds that they've already got built in. So if you want to add kind of like a live feel to your tones, you can do that here. Or even if you just kind of want to mimic some of that tiny bit of like a natural, mic against a speaker cabinet in a studio type setup, right? Like you could mimic that tiny little bit of room, which is actually what I've done here. As you'll see in the room, you can click down here, and then there's U67 Apollo, STC 4033, TLM 107, and then you can load up your own room IRs as well, which is really nice. So it has 4 really nice rooms IRs built in, and you can load up your own. So then we move on, and one thing I can also note is you also have an EQ for every single one of these channels. So you can turn it on or off and apply a specific EQ for each one of these. And then the same thing with the master, which I've actually done here, and I'm just pulling out a little bit of this low end mud. And then you have a master left and a master right output, and you can link or unlink those. And then this width, I just left alone. I haven't even really played with it. I guess maybe we can try that out. And then of course the output, and you can change that mode. You can also make the whole thing mono, auto level, auto gain. I don't ever use any of those auto anythings like this, so those are off. And then of course you can save your presets here. So let's go ahead and have a listen to what some of these DSRs sound like. And the first one up is going to be the G12K100 with an SM57. And before I show this, let me show you how you actually change these or select the speakers and the microphone in the cabinet. And in fact, it's pretty easy. You just click up here anywhere on this cabinet or the speaker, and you're presented with this user interface where you get all of the DSRs that you have in your account, and the ones you don't, you can see show the lock icon. Same thing with the cabinets. All of my DSRs are just going to be the 4x12 closed cabinet. And then you can see I have a selection of a Shure SM57, a Royer R121, and a Sennheiser MD421. And so this is using the SM57. And let me make sure I pull up my volume a bit, and I'm going to pull the room all the way down. And this is what it sounds like. All right, so the other thing I want to point out is this right here in the middle. This is where you're going to move the microphone around the speaker, and it actually gives you an idea of kind of the tone that you're moving it to. And as you can see, it's here's all the way almost in the center of the cone. It says thin, right in the edge. It's bright. Then you have balanced, then fat, then dark, and then what's the last one? Dark 2. And so here, I'll slide that around and you can hear what it sounds like. All right, so that gives you an idea of the G12 or the G12K100 with an SM57. Let's have a listen to the, let me pull the room down, solo this. We're going to listen to the G12M65 Creamback with an SM57, and again, the 4x12 closed cabinet. And this is what it sounds like. All right, the next up is the Vintage 30 with an SM57, and I will hit play and just kind of move around the mic position just as I did with the last couple. So here it is. All right, gives you an idea. Now, this is the next one here is going to be the only one with a 121 microphone, and this is the same speaker you just heard. It's the Vintage 30, but this one is going to have the 121 microphone. I'm more of a fan of the 57, but I figured I probably better throw in at least one of these other microphones so you can hear what it sounds like. So here is the Vintage 30 with the 121. All right, let's have a listen to the next one, which is going to be the G12T75 with an SM57. And this is what it sounds like. All right, rolling on. The last one I've got loaded up here is the G12M Greenback with an SM57. So let's have a listen to this. All right, so that gives you an idea of what these DSRs sound like. And as you can hear, it's pretty damn good. I mean, each one of these sounded pretty amazing. And the preset that I've already saved, which I'll show you in a second here with the stereo and the full image, soloed and then back in context again. But when you start blending these things together, it's next level. It's really, really, really awesome. So let me show you the room here. So I'm just gonna play this Greenback example back here again, and then I'm gonna pull up the room until you can kind of start to hear it, and then that'll give you an idea of at least the setting I've got. And right now I'm using the TLM 107, which is slightly more of a darker sound of a room. And in fact, let me go ahead and I'll solo the rooms for you real quick, and then you can hear each one of them, and then we'll come back and listen to it blended with one of the DSRs. So here are the rooms. I'm gonna pull this up so you can actually hear it. And I want to mention here real quick the width here. So as I pull this up, it actually increases the time that you hear, like the sustain, if you will, of the room. It makes it sound like a bigger room. So I'll pull that up here real quick, and you hear that as well. And that's where you can hear, if you pull it down almost to zero, it just sounds like a much smaller room. So let's go ahead and listen to each one of these. So I'll pull up the width a bit so you can hear it a little bit better. This is the U67. Here's the Apollo. And the STC 4033. Okay, back up my guitar here, and then the last one, the LTM 107. All right, and so like I said, that one is the one that I have been blending with the main tones here. So I'm going to unsolo that, and then I'm going to pull down this room, and I'll start blending this in with the Greenback. And you can obviously already hear it right there. So I'm going to pull it up a little bit more so it's even more obvious, and then I'll pull it back down. And right about in there is where I believe I had it. So it's just a touch of a room in there, and I really feel like it just kind of takes the realism to the next level. It's not so dry. It actually makes it sound like it was a mic on a cabinet, like in a studio recording it. So that's where I think I ended up. So now let's go ahead and listen to my preset. And to load the presets, you can see up here with the yellow text in the top left of the UI of the plugin, where it says JF Chugness. That's the preset that I've saved. So you just click that, and then you'll get your presets. And I should note down here in the bottom, you just click Save Preset, type in your preset, and then save it, and you're good to go. So I'm going to load this back up, take it back to where everything was, and then listen to this. This is what it sounds like. All right, so there you go. So now let me go ahead and pull this back down and we'll solo. This is quad track, so we'll solo all 4 guitars so you can hear what they sound like with just the guitars. So yeah, I'm super happy with the way this thing sounds. It is incredible. So again, here, let's go ahead and listen to things back in context, shall we? There it is, everyone, the Celestion SpeakerMix Pro with the dynamic speaker responses. What are your thoughts? What do you think? How did it sound? Did the dynamic and the dynamicism or the realism of these impulse responses, did it really come through? Could you really tell a difference? What are your thoughts on the features of the plugin? Hit me with all your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you dig this content, if you want more, I've got plenty coming in the future. Hit that subscribe button down there as well. Don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when I upload those new videos. Hit like and share. And as always, thank you for watching and thank you for your support.